All right, man. It's time to talk basketball. I'm already disheveled, so you can tell it's going to be that kind of show. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at the Beach Basket and athletic director, and this is the 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts Overtime podcast. This is an absolutely great time of the year to be a fan of sports in general. NHL and NBA are in preseason. WNBA and MLB are in the playoffs. NFL and MLS soccer seasons are underway. There's something for everybody. But for us at the Peach Basket, we have spent the NBA offseason, Steve and I have, discussing NBA stars from the 60s and 70s by talking about them with someone who watched them play, that being Steve. It's been great fun. We've discussed Wilt Chamberlain, Sam Jones, Rick Barry, Pistol Pete Maravich, Jerry West, and a bunch of others. Great players. And Steve added some insight because he literally remembers watching them play, which to me is incredible. We were also able to interview current NBA referee Scott Foster, NBA champions Kevin Greavy and Tom Henderson. It has been a wild, incredibly amazing NBA offseason for us. Today, thanks to the recommendation of Chris, a listener, and we're grateful for this recommendation, instead of discussing a player, we're going to discuss arguably the greatest rivalry in sports history. In fact, the greatest decade of the greatest rivalry in sports history, the 1980s battles between the two winningest franchises in NBA history, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Boston Celtics. Absolutely the best time to be alive if you were an NBA fan, with these two juggernauts just going at it every year, seemingly every year. So let's take a look at a little bit of a build-up. Today we're going to be talking about 1985, but first a build-up in 1980. Magic Johnson, a rookie, led the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers, to the NBA Finals over Philadelphia, led by Dr. J. Boston got to the finals in 1981, led by the big three of Bird, McHale, and Parrish. They beat the Rockets in 6 games. The Lakers returned to the finals in 82, this time with Pat Riley at the helm. In a rematch against the Sixers, the Lakers won again in 6 games. In 83, the Sixers ruined the party by trading for Moses Malone and defeating the Lakers in the finals in a sweep. Then in 84, NBA fans got what they wanted, and Steve and I discussed this last week after a 4-year season buildup, and the NBA fans got the Lakers versus the Celtics, and it was an absolute battle. We talked about how the Lakers had really the series in control, seemingly, but Boston was a better team. I think Steve made the point that the Lakers were the better team, but Boston was a champion. And at the end of the day, scoreboard rules. So regular season went to Boston, finals went to Boston, and the offseason was painful for the Los Angeles Lakers. What are they going to do in 1985? The NBA got a rematch. The Celtics were looking to repeat in 1985 as NBA champions for the first time since 1968-69. If you're a fan of the show, you know that's Steve's greatest season. That's his favorite team when the Celtics won it that year. The Celtics finished the regular season with a record of 63-19. Juggernaut. Lakers 62-20. This is the two best teams in the West and the East. It's just a great time to be alive. Lakers were seeking to beat Boston for the first time ever in NBA Finals history, a fact that will likely go repeated multiple times by Steve as we record the show. And also for the first time since 1955, the Finals implemented a 2-3-2 format with games 1 and 2 in Boston because they had the better record, while the next 3 were in LA, which is interesting. So we're going to go over each game as we remember it, right? I watched those games. I remember those games. I don't remember a lot of detail, but I'm certainly going to interject. We'll start with game 1. This is a game known as the Memorial Day Massacre. Let me share my screen and we'll take a look at the box score and talk about what we remember about that particular game and what it looked like for each team in the series. Let's go and take a look at, wow, this box score. What a punch to the gut, right? 148-114. Boston Celtics destroyed the Lakers at home in Boston. And they even captured this in basketballreference.com, which is funny, calling it the Memorial Day Massacre. This must have been great for fans of the Celtics, and probably something you turned off in the third or second quarter if you're a Lakers fan. Steve, any memories about this game?
I didn't turn it off, first of all. I watched the whole game because I'm a basketball fan. The game was a blowout. I believe Scott Wedman had a perfect day. I think he was 11 for 11 from the floor. I remember that. And remember, I said Wedman was a really good shooter. Probably the only guy Boston had on their bench. And if you look, and it's an interesting point, Mikhail Bird and DJ, Dennis Johnson, will have over 40 minutes they'll average per game. Yeah. Look what they got there. So that tells you they played a
Right.
lot more in the other games. The game was never close. Boston just blew them out. Now, sitting watching the game, and I was thinking back to the year before when Boston wasn't as good as the Lakers. How could this change? How could all of a sudden Boston's much better? Something's not right. He said, it looks like Boston's going to win this series, but it's just not right. For Boston, they started using more of Danny Ainge. General Henderson had been traded. Interestingly enough, he was traded for a first-round pick with Seattle. That pick became Len Bias. But, well, Henderson wasn't with them anymore. And if we look at their bench, Scott Wedman, Quinn Buckner was not a good player when he played with the Celtics. Cedric Maxwell, there's a story on that. Cedric Maxwell was starting, and then during the year, he hurt his knee. He got surgery, I believe, and came back late in the year. The Boston players were pissed at him, really, because they felt he was not coming back as quickly as possible. What will happen is, and this is interesting, after this series, he gets traded for a guy that you might have heard of, Bill Walton. So it was very interesting because Boston had it with Maxwell, and Maxwell now does the radio for the Celtics and is back in good graces. But for a long time, he and Larry Bird weren't getting along after after they both were done. But now, everything's back. Max is back, and he's pretty good on the radio. But that was interesting. So Boston was really playing with five guys, if you look at it. Scott Wedman, as I said, played well, but these guys were all getting garbage minutes to the bench because it was an easy game. Now, the other piece that's important, after game one, I believe the Lakers never picked the ball up. All Riley did was show film and get on them because he felt they had to learn how to win.
Wow.
And he really rode him. And also, Kareem, it was said, because I think he had about 12 in the first game. Go back. I think he had 12. He didn't play.
12.
Yeah. He didn't play.
3 boards.
Yeah. Like his age was starting to show and all the others.
Right.
That goes, well, so he took a pounding. And I know Riley, in those film sessions in between games, was all over and really put it straight out to him. So there was a lot of motivation. And Riley, and he won his share. But this is really where all of a sudden people began to realize how great a coach he can be.
Yeah.
Game two, things changed a lot. I'm going ahead of you because they came back and won. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll get there. And apologies to Laker fans for spending more time on this game than we needed to. But I do want to call out, because, the one recollection I have about this is, and NBA fans generally, we're so focused on a single game instead of the whole. Being down 0-1 is not great, but being down 0-1 on the road, listen, that's almost expected. You're not expected to win on the road. Now, in '84, the Lakers did, right? And they could have won both, as we know. But a loss is a loss, man. You'd rather lose. People say, I've heard players say, I'd rather lose by 30 than lose by 1. It hurts a little more to lose by 1. This was a blowout, undeniably. But the one thing I remember is, the rumors and it wasn't even whispers. It was the loud yells about Kareem has finally done it, right? He's gone over the edge. He's got to retire. He looked like a shell of himself. And you can see the numbers right here. 6 of 11, 22 minutes, 12 points, 3 rebounds. Just horribly poor numbers. And Steve made the point earlier, the Lakers were never in it. Take a look at the box score, right? 38-24 in the first, 41-25 in the second. For all intents and purposes, the game's over, right? The 3-point shot was in play here, but they didn't use it. They didn't use it like they use it today. And then a special shout out again, just to repeat what Steve said, Scott Wedman. Yeah, not only, I'm looking at the wrong stat line here. Not only 11-11, but that includes 4 for 4 from deep. Which again, the 3-point, they took 9 total 3-point shots, the Celtics in that game. The 3-pointer was not the weapon it is today. But it's a blowout. It was what it was. The Lakers were down 1-0, and they had to win game 2. They knew They had to win game 2. Let's take a look at what happened then. Although we had a spoiler alert, because Steve already called it out. The Lakers came back 109-102 to tie up the series in Boston, which is exactly what you want, right? If you're the visiting team. So again, let's take a look at these numbers. And Steve, what rings out to you about this? Do you remember anything about this game?
The only thing I remember was Michael Cooper played really well down the stretch. He was a key player for them. Not just defense. He did score 2 big baskets. I don't remember the depth of it. I do remember them losing, and I do remember saying to myself, we got a series, because now they got to go back to LA and they've got to figure out how to win a game there. And all of a sudden things changed. And again, I was much younger then. The realization was you put one game behind you and go on to the next game. And, that game means nothing if you were by 30 or if you win by 2. So
Right.
that was like what was going on in my head. But I did know it would get difficult in LA because the Lakers, I guess we can call it the 25% rule, or the blind squirrel finds an acorn, meaning they've played 12 times, the Celtics and Lakers, over the years. Up until that point, I believe the Lakers hadn't won once. They've won 3, so that's the 25% rule. So the Lakers finally did win a few, but it took a while for them to get there. And I knew the world averages, they couldn't win every year. And by the way, I think Bird won his 2nd or 3rd MVP this year in a row.
Yes, no, Larry Bird was amazing, and he led everybody in the entire series in points scored. But, right, kind of what you're alluding to. Yeah, overall, look at his numbers. 30 points, lead everybody for the Celtics, but on 90-21 shooting. So he did not have a quintessential Larry Bird series. And I want to call out here for Boston, too, what Steve called out earlier. They were playing 6 guys, right? Look at the big numbers in a close game as opposed to a blowout. They played the bench a lot, and the only other player off the bench, they played their starters a lot. The only player off the bench who had significant minutes was Scott Wedman.
Look at the minutes.
Yeah.
DJ was playing. He played 43. Bird 41. Robert Cowers 38. McHale only 36. He'll go on and average the most minutes in that series. But they, as I told you, I think the other day, Boston would call a timeout, or not a timeout, pull Bird with a minute or so left in the 3rd quarter and let him sit, figuring during the time between the quarters, they thought that would help his rest because they needed him on the court. So he'd only shoot a minute on the other side and get him out there. So he was playing. If the games were close, he wasn't sitting much.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the Lakers real quick before we move to game 3. This is honestly the pinnacle of Lakers basketball. This is the 5 that generally you think of it if you're a Laker fan. Byron Scott, Kareem, Magic, James Worthy, and Kurt Rambis. Look at those minutes. Same kind of thing, right, for the Lakers, except they had 2 players off the bench that were key contributors. Michael Cooper, who scored 22 points. Steve called him out earlier. And Bob McAdoo, who his numbers here don't show a lot. One at 6 points, but good player.
And I do notice that Rambis is getting a lot of play.
I was going to call it out because, Steve has made the point that Rambis is essentially just the 5th player because they need 5. And he did not do a whole lot of contributing in this particular game.
I'm shocked.
But, almost more of a bench role when you look at his minutes. But the Lakers did come out ahead, 109-102, head to LA with some momentum. Let's take a look at what happens in pivotal game 3. In game 3, the Lakers came back to win 136-111 to take a little bit of control over the series. Let's take a look at the box score first. You can see started off close game, Boston ahead. Lakers punched back in the 2nd and 3rd and really took control with a 10-point lead in the 4th. So, again, no real vivid memories here. What do you got?
This is just for research. Boston was winning 48-33. Point. So if you do some math, I believe it was the Lakers from that point on, 98-63.
Wow.
Now, one of the things I do remember more in 87, but the Laker crowd would really get into it. And it would rattle Boston. We could talk about 87 another time, but in game 6, Boston was winning throughout. not into the third quarter, and then the crowd got into it, a couple steals, and all of a sudden Boston was getting beaten pretty good. So once that crowd got rolling, the Lakers just weren't. They're just unstoppable.
Interesting story there. Being in LA, maybe something you did hear about, but when Magic Johnson got here and started playing in LA, Los Angeles crowds notoriously, right, want to beat the traffic, right? So didn't matter if the Lakers were winning or losing by the third quarter, middle of the fourth, you're exiting the forum, right? And that irked Magic Johnson. He just wasn't used to that. He didn't like it. And he called out Los Angeles fans. And he basically said, get off your phones, which I don't, probably didn't say get off your phones. I don't think we had cell phones necessarily across the board in the 80s. But his message was clear. Pay attention to the game. Stay for the duration of the game. Be a fan. We need you. And it was a big deal out here in LA. And this was before 84, right? But the point is, he got the crowd to be an asset, right? Magic Johnson got the crowd to be an asset. So what you're saying impacted the Celtics is an assist, another assist for Magic Johnson, because he absolutely demanded that from Los Angeles fans. And Los Angeles fans notoriously, right? Not only did they leave early, they were celebrity row, and it was a very kind of posh, not a rabid fan environment in the Forum when Magic got here, but it certainly was by 1984. So let me call out just a couple things here, then we'll go on to game 4. Let me take a look at some numbers here. Magic, 17 and 16 assists. Just Magic Johnson, right? Kareem, he bounced back a little bit, 26 points on 10 of 13 shooting, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, solid numbers. So all of a sudden now, the top is winding down.
Look who started next to Magic.
Barry Scott?
Yeah, they made the change where they were on the bench. If you look at what McAdoo did, McAdoo always hurt the Celtics.
He Scott Wedman the Celtics.
For those people that don't know, McAdoo was an ex-Celtic.
Great overall win, and we can see a lot of time for some of the bench players on the Lakers as well. So not a payback for the Memorial Day Massacre, but a good win. Lakers take control 2-1. We go to game 4. All right, now game 4. Now this, I'm just going off the score again. No real memories of this game, but this looks like a tight battle. 107-105. Let's take a look. Lakers with a slight lead in the first. Washington gets it back in the second. Lakers a little bit of a lead in the third. This was a tight game from the jump, it looks like. What do you remember about this one, Steve?
I remember one thing. Boston had the ball at the end of the game. I don't know what they were running. Dennis Johnson had the ball, dribbled down to the foul line, and the clock was running down, and I'm watching it. Well, don't you get it to Bird or whatever, and he, foul line, I guess at the elbow, maybe right around there, he hit right at the buzzer, a turnaround jumper. He was all enough. And Boston stole the game. In my mind, I'm saying, okay, now it's 2-2. Game 5, if they lose it, they're still coming home, and they're in. So I'm thinking, okay, it's a series. But I think it was a great game because it was competitive, and it was one of them games that you just sit back and forth like things. Look at the minutes for Boston. Look at McHale. Look at Dennis Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, the 4 of them all in 40 minutes and above.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. And you can see that this is the Boston coach. It was Casey Jones, right?
What?
Casey made a decision. We're going to play 5-6 guys max, and we're just going to roll the dice, man. And these guys came through. Kevin McHale, 28, DJ, 27, Bird, 26, Parrish. Parrish didn't have a great game, but didn't need it. Looks like, I'm sure that he did work on the defensive side for sure.
The interesting thing is, and I talked about this before, Maxwell ticked off a lot of people in Boston.
Jumped off a cliff.
Oh, he had a bad knee. The players thought he wasn't, he wasn't hurt. He could play. They were angry at it, but they couldn't get anything out of him in that series. Because if you want something from him, now you can give Bird,
right,
Chief, more rest.
Right.
I mean,
And for those listening and not aware, that is Robert Parrish, the Chief. Well, I was, fortunate enough to go to games in the '80s, and I got to see Robert Parrish up close, and he was the biggest human being I've ever seen in my whole entire life. To me as a kid, his shoulders looked to be as wide as he was tall. He's just a big man. Let's take a look at what the Lakers did in this game. James Worthy, 16 points, Magic 20 and 12, just continuing to do Magic Johnson things. Byron Scott, 16, Cap. That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's nickname, right? 21 and 6. And this is where we see Robert Parrish's influence, probably. He just focused on defense. And Kurt Rambis got a little bit more time and contributed 12 points and 7 boards. So great battle. And now you see the series now is tied, and it's anybody's series, right? At this point, it's anybody's series. You've had blowouts by both teams. You had the Lakers a little bit more comfortable win. The Celtics with the close win in game 4. We go to game 5. And this is where you really start to see the Lakers become the Lakers. And the Laker fans love to romanticize. And this is a great team. 120, 111, they won the game. Let's take a look at the box score, 35-31. So Lakers got off to a good start. And look what they did in the second quarter, 29-20. Kept it up. They won the third. They lost the fourth, but it didn't matter. They had a big enough lead. What are your recollections about this game?
Boston was down by about 15 or 20. And they made a run, and they cut it to 4. And every time, and they kept getting it there, or 5, I don't remember exactly, but every time they did, a Laker scored a basket. And just stopped that. And every time it happened, they did. And then ultimately, the Lakers held on and went on. But the point being, Boston couldn't, just get over the hump. And again, look at the minutes there again.
Yeah, staggering.
Wow. They had no bench. And when it read on about not to be able to get people that physical bench, it's a shame. And so on. And by the way, in this series, Bird, the MVP, did look a great series.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, we got Bird at 20 points, respectable number, 8 of 17 shooting. He did not shoot the ball well. And we've got a little snippet we're going to show you, too, the last 2 minutes of the last game. And you'll see something that I don't remember ever seeing in a game that Larry Bird did. You'll see it here in just a minute.
By the way, look at the assists for Dennis Johnson.
Wow, 2 points.
Probably one of the most underrated super players.
Yep.
And he did whatever had to be done to get him to win.
Phenomenal player, quiet player. That's what I remember about DJ, but just an absolute assassin. I enjoyed watching him play. Right? I didn't care that he was on the Sonics or the Celtics. He was just a fun player to watch play. Now, take a look at what Kareem did. Now, keep in mind, right? Series is tied. This is a must win. Kareem had heard, he'd been a Laker for a long time. He'd heard all the talk about the Celtics. He knows they'd never won. They've never won. Kareem came out 36 points, probably to match his age, give or take. 7 assists, 7 boards. What a game by the captain. 26 and 17. So Magic matched to DJ. 33 for James Worthy. Just unbelievable. Again, the pinnacle of Los Angeles Lakers basketball. Kurt Rambis, 27 points. Concentrated on the defensive end, did his job. And then Byron Scott with 4. And Coop, again, I'm sure he had some lockdown defense against Bird. And Larry Bird, we've said it before, has said Michael Cooper's the toughest player that ever defended him. And I can't help but think that contributed a little bit here. So Lakers now up 3-2. And now you travel to Boston. Last 2 games are in Boston, right? The Lakers have never won in Boston. The Lakers have never beaten Boston overall, ever. You got 2 shots at it. Let's take a look at what happens in game 6. All right. The Los Angeles Lakers beat the Celtics 111-100. Let's take a look at how it went. 28-26. The Lakers got off to an early start. Boston came back, close game, right? We've had a couple in this series. Lakers took control in the third, and it looks like they held on in the fourth. Now, I've got the last 2 minutes of that game. We'll show it here as Steve reminisces. And with apology, Steve, I know this was a tough one. The Lakers won. We'll take a look at the box score. But let me play the last 2 minutes of this game. And then, Steve, let me know what you remember about this one. Something here in the last 2 minutes that I've never seen Larry Bird do, or I don't remember him doing. Ugly shot. This is it right here. Look at this. An air ball. I can't help but think that you could count on one hand how many air balls Larry Bird has had in his career. And I don't remember much, but I remember feeling relief after Kareem did what he's about to do here in a second. The best and most unstoppable shot in NBA history, bar none. Kareem doesn't do this. Kareem doesn't do this. He knew the history. He knew what he was doing. He knew what that shot meant. The Lakers were about to win.
If they don't win that often, so he got excited. I understand.
But he's a quiet guy. He never did that. You just didn't see that kind of enthusiasm from him.
They're so used to getting beat that you get excited over things like that.
Did you just hear what the announcer said? He said, not a dynasty. You can't hear it at all?
Yeah. What did he say?
Oh, no. I'm sorry, you guys.
What did he say?
He said the Lakers have been in 5 of the last 6 finals, won 3 or 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly. He said, not a dynasty, which is shocking to me.
Tommy Heinsohn was doing.
He was doing the color. And I'm so sorry if you guys cannot hear this. That's on me. But yeah, they said not a dynasty. By today's standards, it's an absolute dynasty. Bad foul, by the way, to take DJ to the line. No need to do that. Good pass. This is classy. And listen, for all the, let's call it hatred, right? The rivalry between Boston and LA. Again, you guys can't hear the audio, and apologies for that. But this team right now is being serenaded by their fans, and nothing but respect for Boston fans. They are fans of the game, and they know that this was a great team, a great series, and Boston fans are saluting that right now. This was a dumb attempt by Byron Scott. Young guy, tried to do that emphatic dunk at the end of the game. He missed it, got lucky.
Nobody's leaving either.
That's the bad foul. I'm sorry. Nobody left. They're screaming for their team, and just nothing but respect. Nothing but respect for Boston fans. And Kareem has said this was the pinnacle of his career, winning in Boston and hearing the silence.
By the way,
which is, I understand how dumb that sounds, but that was pretty special for Kareem.
First time Boston ever lost a game 7. There was one other time they lost in their own, lost to another team getting the championship in their building. It was Golden State.
I love watching Magic, right? Who dribbled off the clock in the last game. KC brings Larry Bird out of the game. Here, crowd goes crazy. And yeah, just a ton of respect, right? Because Bird did not have a great series, as you called out. But big cheers for him. And this is it. I think Michael Cooper gets the last touch, throws the ball up in the air. And the Lakers are the world champs. All right. Let's go ahead and talk about what you remember about that last game.
The Lakers won. It was over. Well, what could you say? There wasn't much to it. Bird didn't play well, probably because of Cooper, and Boston. It was tied at the half, and Boston got a horrible third quarter, and that was the ball game, basically. Jabbar got the MVP, by the way.
He did. After saying that he should retire in game 1. Larry Bird, 28 points. Better shooting at 12 of 29. 47 minutes for Bird. 43 for DJ, only 11 points. Kevin McHale showed up 11 of 18 with 32. But again, I think the biggest thing for me with Boston is their bench, right? Scott Wedman was the only 2 for 3, 7 points, 15 minutes.
That's why,
0 minutes for Cedric Maxwell.
That's why they went out and traded Maxwell for Walton.
And that changed
Will
everything.
become six man the next year, and that would be Walton's last productive season in the NBA. But he was
Right.
great, and
Right.
he solved a lot of the issues for Boston.
Right.
On the bench, and I think he played 80 or 81 games that year, which he never did before. I don't.
Yeah, and it certainly never did again. And we'll talk about that next time. But right now, we're talking about 1985.
No, we're not going to talk about 86 because the Lakers didn't get there. So we can't. We have to wait till 87.
That's my bet.
When GL played with the broken foot.
Was 86 when the Lakers lost to Houston in the first round? I think
Yeah,
so.
86 might have been the greatest team that ever put on a court. Boston that year.
You know what? And I was going to make that point. This is probably one of the greatest Lakers teams ever. And then it's interesting that the next year with Bill Walton, that was probably one of the best Celtics teams ever.
I believe
Pinnacle of basketball, man.
I believe Arback goes out and gets Walton, but I believe he got a little guard from Indiana, Jerry Sheestick, who could shoot.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
I believe he played in 86. He was a key part because now they have a backup guard they can use as well as the big man, Walton, that they can use to alternate. Because don't forget, Bird could play the 3 and the 4, and so one guy could play instead of Greg Kite, could do a lot of different things.
They clearly needed a bench. They went out and got the bench, but 1985 belonged to the Lakers. James Worthy finished off the Celtics with 28, Magic 14 and 14, and 10. How about a triple-double? 29 for Kareem, which is probably what got him the MVP, deservedly. 14 for Byron Scott. Kurt Rambis chipped in 10 rebounds and 9 points in a hoop. Those are solid. Now, you don't need, not everybody's going to score 20 and 10.
No, I'm impressed.
That's sarcasm, is it?
No, I always thought Rambis could play.
Michael Cooper did a great job again on Larry Bird, no doubt, 9 points. And the Lakers are the world champions, and all is well in the world in 1985. That is it. That is our trip down memory lane. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the 1985 NBA Finals with two guys who watched them live. It was absolutely, undeniably, to date, probably the best time to be a basketball fan, with the two best players, the two best teams matching up against each other in a rematch. Just a great NBA Finals. Next week on 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts Overtime, Steve and I will probably discuss the next time these two decide to get together and entertain NBA fans in the finals. 1987, right, Steve?
Yep.
All right, We'll do it then. We'll talk then. It has, as always, been a great time. Please, thank you for joining. Thank you for finding us. Please subscribe, comment. All that stuff matters. All that stuff helps. We have a great time doing it, but we absolutely want to hear from you. Let us know what you enjoyed, what you didn't like, what you'd like us to talk about. The big part of why we do this is because we love doing it, but certainly to hear from you, it means the world to us. Thank you for joining us. We will be back again next week. Thanks, Steve. Boom, boom.